he should have made it a full paper without a review. We had the third paper by Professor Rahim, and it was on effects of nanomaterials on properties of selected pozzolan concrete. In their work, wood ash was utilized as a supplementary cementitious materials in concrete, and because of the challenges noted with supplementary cementitious materials, they went further to introduce nanomaterials gotten from other materials. He was able to have nanosilica and nanotitanium introduced, and the result shows that up to 2% introduction of the nanomaterials, there were no much negative effects on the properties of the concrete. But beyond 2%, the strength and other properties studied were noted to be depreciating. And they also emphasized that nanosilica was noted to perform better than nanotitanium. I'm sure that work is something that will spur some interest in many of us to go back to our labs and do more. This technical session closed with that paper after discussions and questions, and we had to go on break to return back for the presidential night. The presidential night was full of speeches and awards. We had Professor Anibogu. We had 3 or 4 other awardees that were given merit award on the recommendation of the state chapter, and after which it was menu. I'm sure some of us that are not yet here are still on the hangover of overeating at the presidential night. I'm sure you'll still have better time, but we are here not to be a glutton, but to add to our knowledge. And I welcome you to the second day, which will be more of technical sessions. I want to implore you to give attention to issues that you will observe from this research. They could be a basis for you to go back to your lab and continue where they might have stopped. Any observation you notice, you could also pick it up as a challenge to say, this I want to improve on. And I see Nigeria Institute of Building emerging from this conference speaking materials locally that will fit well for cement and concrete production for sustainable development. Thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Olawi. My dear people, I want to tell you my personal concern. We come here, we go for conference every year. Sometimes some of us think it's theory. But I spoke to somebody yesterday who told me how he found himself in building industry. He said he read industrial chemistry. And in the process, he was going to site. That's how he was learning certain out, but he didn't know the principle. Somebody advised him to go and read building, a course. He did his OND, did his HND, did his BSc, did his MSc, and he's not regretting today. You know, some people may be thinking that what we are doing is theory. Let me tell you, sir and ma, some people who are not in our profession, some of these ideas that are being generated, somebody can just take it up in an entrepreneurial way and begin to employ builders. Please, this period is a serious period that I suggest, please, let's pay attention. And those are those who are outside, our colleagues there, kindly tell them to move inside. It's beyond socialization. When we are here, yes, we are socializing. Let me also give a small piece of information. The Redam president was here yesterday, Dr. Aliyu Wamako. If you check many of these big developers, they are not even in our line at all. And they don't have all the ideas we have. Despite the fact that they don't have it, they are making the best use of it and employing professionals and employing architects, engineers, builders. I know an architect. Kindly allow me to be personal. We try to speak home truth to ourselves so that they don't just think it's for us to come and attend and get certificate of attendance. I know an architect some years ago, big architect, designed very big structure I know in Lagos. But do you know what he was using to eat? I mean, what was bringing him income that time? It's interlocking blocks. Interlocking blocks. His architecture is there. I was privileged to be in the African International Housing Show about 3 weeks or so ago. And when some of the things you see are the ideas many of us know, but people who may not even be in our life, they are using the ideas and making a lot of money. If you are with me, if you can understand me, say hi. If you don't understand, say nay. So I think everybody understands. There is a session now, they call it prop tech, property tech. Just like you have infotech, you have fintech, you have agric tech, you have edu tech. And these are people who are not in our line. They are already seeing how they can use technology to drive. That you can go to the real estate market, buy something, do transactions. My dear people, nothing stops us as builders entering into all these things. Look at we were talking yesterday, Nano, we were talking Pozzolana, all this. Do you know somebody who is not in our line? He can say this is a good business idea. And he can look for funding for it. Because all this one we are doing has gone beyond theory. So I want to plead with us. Kindly know that I'm not talking down on you, but I'm trying to please challenge us that what we are here for is beyond just presenting paper, something. You can get a spark that can help you. Thank you very much. Have I spoken as a friend? Thank you very much. So those who are outside still taking photographs, this is not time for photographs. Please let them come in. So straight away, we want to go to the business of the day. And we are going to the first session. And the first session, the second panel session of technical presentation is kicking off now. So we are going to call our panelists and our presenters to please come up. The chairman of this technical session is no other one than His Excellency Builder Professor Olushola Ileka. Kindly come up, sir. The next member on the panel is our own builder, Kennedy Aimiwu. The chairman, FNR will be the chairman of the practice committee of the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria. If I say I should give you $1 million for clapping, you will miss my $1 million. Can you clap for the our people? Then the paper presenters, can you please come up? The first presentation by Dr. Ismaila is the first presenter around. Okay, the second paper presenter. Okay, you are Dr. Ismaila? Okay, Ismaila Joseph, you are welcome. Because I'm just to do like an introducer. There's no grammar like introducer. But when I finish my introduction, I hand over to the chairman who will take over and control it. The second paper, for today, the second paper for today, the first paper is effect of clay pozzolana on the consistency and setting time of blended cement. Then the second paper for today is evaluation of strength characteristics of paper ash blended concrete by Dr. Akinola Victoria. Is she around? Oh, you're presenting for her. So can we clap for him? Okay, if you don't want to clap. Then the last paper for this session is going to be done by, the last paper is locust bean pod solution as alternative binder for laterite, rice horse fiber composite. And it's going to be presented by Neku, MN, and it's a paper co-authored by him and Dr. Olawi. So is Neku around, or Dr. Olawi? Please, can you come forward, sir? What I'm going to do is that I'm going to call the former president, chairman of the Association of Professional Women Builders, to kindly join them on the panel. Thank you, ma'am. So on this note, I hand over this session to Mr. Chairman. And some years ago, when some of you, where were you that time? Where were you in 1970 something? Talk to your neighbor. Where were you in 1970 something? Some of you, where were you in 1960 something? In the 70s, okay, what the story we had is we used to look for secondary school students to come and fill Niob. Am I right? Building history. But now, by the grace of God, we have people. If it is professor, you have them. Am I right? If it is possessor, you have them. Am I right? If it is politician, you have them. Am I right? And by God's grace, some of us don't know our chairman is the former deputy governor of Ekiti State. So when I use the word His Excellency and Professor Olushola Leka, and by God's grace too, he is very productive. He has produced many PhD students and many people, and we are proud of their work. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Once again, let me say good morning, distinguished builders. Just as we've heard from the chairman of the Research and Development Committee, Builder Professor Dada, we have 3 papers for presentation. Each presenter, all the presenters are listening. Each presenter is being given a maximum of 15 minutes for presentation. After that, there will be comments from the panel of discussants. That is, after we have finished the presentation of the 3 papers, we will have comments from the panel of discussants, and then questions from the audience, and each presenter cannot respond as appropriate to the questions that are being asked. So, without wasting time, we are going straight to the first paper presentation. Effect of clay pozzolana on the consistency and setting times of blended cement. Standing in for all the authors is Builder Ismaila Joseph. Am I right? You're welcome. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, all the distinguished colleagues and the panel for the technical session. I would like to stand on the existing protocol already established. My name is Engineer Ismaila Joseph. I work with the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute. I will be presenting the paper titled Effect of Clay Pozzolana on the Consistency and Setting Times of Blended Cement. From the slide? Okay. The presentation outline. Next slide, please. Okay. The pozzolana used for this study is named Nibri cement, and it is being named Nibri cement as a result of a technical capacity project of a pilot pozzolana plant for the production of pozzolana in Nigeria. From the Ghana experience of production of pozzolana, the institute, that's the Nigerian Building Research Institute, came up with an intervention of a pilot pozzolana plant for the production of pozzolana. So the pozzolana, which is calcined clay, was the effect of the pozzolana calcined clay was investigated on consistency and setting times of blended cement. Next slide, please. So, statement of the problem. Many studies pertaining to supplementary cementing materials have focused more on concrete and often ignored the fact that the paste in concrete also constitutes a considerable percentage of the total concrete volume, as well as vulnerable to chemical attacks. The next slide, please. So the aim of this study is to evaluate the effect of clay pozzolana on consistency and setting times of blended cement paste. The objectives include to obtain a representative sample of clay material, to characterize the study materials, to determine the consistency of the blended cement, to also determine the initial and final setting times of the blended cement. The use of pozzolanic materials in cementitious system has gained significant attention due to their potential to enhance the performance and sustainability of concrete. And consistency is a function of setting time and also relates to hydration of cementitious materials. Thus, the setting time of pozzolanic material is also a measure of its pozzolanic activity or pozzolanic reaction. The literature review. Table 1 shows a review of related works. That's past research study on paste characteristics. The first researcher studied characteristics of ordinary Portland cement paste containing rice husk ash and compost. The second researcher here investigated the influence of waste basalt powder on selected properties of cement paste. The third here studied the effect of olive waste husk on blended cement paste. And the fourth researcher studied characteristics of polyvinyl chloride powders cement paste on concrete. And in all their findings, they were able to find out that the paste characteristics studied, which are consistency, setting times, and sometimes soundness, of the cementitious system usually decrease with increase in percentage of the pozzolanic materials. Next slide, please. So the materials and methods. The materials used for the study are the calcine clay. The clay, first of all, was sourced from different sources, and a preliminary investigation was carried out on the clay sample to determine the clay that has the most adequate properties that is suitable for a pozzolanic material. After which, the clay was calcined at a temperature between 650 to 800 degrees centigrade. And the other material used was ordinary Portland cement. So the methods used were a characterization of the materials, then the test on the standard consistency, a test on the initial and final setting time of the blended cement. All the tests were conducted in accordance with relevant specifications. The next slide, please. So this figure here shows the schematic of the production process of the calcined clay pozzolana used for the study, from the raw material sourcing to the preliminary preparation of the raw material before the processes that were involved in the production of the pozzolana, which is grinding the clay, representative sample of clay, mixed with palm kernel shell to serve as a biofuel, after which the mixture of the clay and the palm kernel shell was now noodleized in an equipment known as the noodleizer. After the noodleization, the noodleized product was now fired in a purpose-built kiln in the Nibri Pozzolana pilot plant at Ota, Ogun State. Next slide, please. Results and discussion. Table 2 shows the chemical composition of the clay, which from the results you can see that the silica content in the clay material that was calcined was 63.36%, and the other oxide that was present in the clay in considerable quantity was the alumina, which is aluminum oxide, that has 16.36%, followed by iron oxide with 5.44%. And the total aggregated sum of the silica, alumina, and iron oxide of the raw clay and the calcined clay were found to meet the requirements of the ASTM specification for natural pozzolan, which is equal to or greater than 70%. Also, the loss on ignition was found to be 2.2% for the calcined clay, which is the pozzolanic material, blended with the cement, which also met the specification of the ASTM 618 classification for natural pozzolan of not greater than 10% for natural pozzolans. Table 3 shows the mineralogical composition of the clay, which you can see that the mineral quartz is the predominant compound in both the raw clay and the calcined clay, followed by the kaolinite. And from the results, it shows that the clay material used for the production of the pozzolana is kaolinitic. The next slide, please. Table 4 shows the paste characteristics of the ordinary Portland cement used. It has a consistency of 36%, initial setting time of 178 minutes, and final setting time of 218. While Table 5 shows the chemical properties of the, sorry, there's a mistake. The chemical properties of the OPC. And from the results, you can see that the calcium oxide, which is a major composition that imparts the cementing property, has the highest, which is 68.78%. Let's go to the next slide, please. So, figure 2 is the chart or the plot of the standard consistency of the calcined clay pozzolana OPC paste. So the consistency of a binder paste is the measure of the degree of wetness or fluidity of a prepared paste. It is the water affinity of the cementitious material. Thus, the consistency is a function of certain times of cementitious material. So the figure here shows the consistency results of the effect of the clay pozzolana when it was blended with the OPC. And it can be observed that the consistency steadily decreases with increasing proportion of the clay pozzolana compared to the reference paste, which is the 0% addition of clay pozzolana. The replacement levels were at 10% replacement of the pozzolana by weight of the ordinary Portland cements, 20%, 30%, 40%, and 50% respectively. The decrease varied from 5.56 to 13.89%, at 10% to 50% calcined clay pozzolana replacement. The next slide, please. So figure 3 here is the plot of the initial setting time and final setting time of the calcined clay OPC blend. Setting time, as we know, is the time required for stiffening of cement paste to a defined consistency. Stiffening, on the other hand, is the loss of consistency by plastic cement paste and is associated with the slump loss in concrete. The initial setting time is the time when cement paste starts to harden, while the final setting time is the time when the cement paste has hardened sufficiently. So from the plot here of the initial and setting time of the calcined clay OPC blend, it can be observed that the initial setting time decreased by about 62% at 10% calcined clay replacement of the control, which is the paste without the calcined clay. However, the initial setting time increases with proportion of the calcined clay pozzolana, such that at 50% calcined clay replacement, the initial setting time decreased only by about 54% of the control. On the other hand, the final setting time was delayed when calcined clay pozzolana was blended with OPC compared with the control. The increased final setting time varied from 6.8% at 10% to approximately 10% at 50% calcined clay replacement. The next slide, please. So in conclusion, the chemical characterization of the calcined clay showed The materials possess pozzolanic properties. The mineral composition revealed the raw clay belonged to kaolinitic clay mineral. The calcined clay pozzolana decreased the water requirement, which is the consistency of the calcined clay blended ordinary Portland cement paste. In this case, the clay pozzolana acted as a water-reducing admixture. The initial setting time is reduced, while the final setting time was delayed when the calcined clay pozzolana was added to the OPC. Therefore, the clay pozzolana can serve as a set retarder, which can be utilized in hot weather concreting. Thank you for listening.
Appreciate him once again, please. Without wasting time, quickly go to the next paper, paper 2, titled Evaluation of Strength Characteristics of Paper Ash Blended Cement Concrete in Construction Industry in Nigeria. This paper is going to be presented on behalf of the authors by Builder Afuyeta. Over to you, sir. 15 minutes maximum.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, panel, judges, fellow builders. I'm Builder Afuye Isaac Taiwo, a lecturer at the Department of Building at Bamidele Olumila University of Education, Science and Technology, Ekiti State. And I'm here this morning to present a paper on the evaluation of the strength characteristics of paper ash blended concrete cement in construction industry in Nigeria. Next slide, please. There's the presentation outline. Next slide. Now, Portland cement is the most used binder in the world. It's used for building, construction, and civil engineering, construction jetties and harbors. And due to the fact that this material is mainly utilized as a major binder, it has led to a major depletion in the natural resources. And next slide, please. And the issue with this cement production and usage majorly is about the quantity of this cement that is produced annually worldwide. Now, if you can see this slide, about 40 billion tons of Portland cement are produced worldwide yearly. And as a result of this, it has resulted to, global warming, and at the same time in the production process of this Portland cement, there are a lot of energy that are reduced into the environment. About 1 ton of cement will generate about 3.2 gigajoules of natural energy. And this emits harmful greenhouse gases, which eventually leads to global warming, which we are experiencing now. And also at the same time, in the production of this Portland cement, about 0.5 to 0.6 tons of CO2 gases are released into the atmosphere, which eventually leads to the depletion of the ozone layer. And most of the effect of these we are feeling globally at global warming. And also we have more devastating effect of as a result of the depletion of the ozone layer. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now, this issue that we have with the production of Portland cement, also, for this product is prone to degradation of an aggressive environment. As you can see this picture, this cement, the Portland cement is used in the production of concrete. At the same time, when this is subjected to aggressive environment, this is what we have. If you check our environment very well, if you observe our slabs, or in an environment where you have ingress of moisture in concrete, where you have harmful minerals in the soil, once you have an ingress of water in your concrete, it triggers chemical reaction where you have this piling, and at the same time you begin to experience rust on your reinforcements. Next slide, please. Now, these are problems that are associated with the production of cement. Now, one, we have the depletion of natural resources that I've mentioned earlier. Also, the level of energy that is consumed during this production process, and also the production cost, and also the effect that we have on the greenhouse gases. And as a result of this has pushed many researchers to actually look into different innovative means on how to actually, produce an alternative materials that can actually be used to replace cement, so that we can actually have a more sustainable building construction material. And as a result of this, one of the major materials that was actually considered as an alternative sustainable material is waste paper ash, which we are actually considering in this study. Next slide, please. Now, for waste paper ash is generated from the incineration of waste paper. Now, waste paper ash could actually reduce the CO2 emission associated with the production of Portland cement. Now, we can see the analysis of the waste paper ash. We have the physical property analysis. Now, the density is stated as between 2.2 to 2.9, and also the dry density and water absorption specific gravity and bulk density. Also, the average moisture content is stated here. Now, if you check the chemical analysis for the waste paper ash, now during the incineration of this waste paper ash, the organic compounds are burned at the temperature of about 350 to 500 degrees Celsius, where all the mineral flyers and organic salts are transformed into corresponding oxides. Now, you can see the oxide, aluminum silicates, aluminum and silicate oxide. And all this, makes this waste paper ash a good porcelainate material because of the chemical content. Also, the mineralogical composition, we have gallites, lime, calcites, and CaCO3. Next slide, please. Now, this waste paper ash was used in this research to substitute for Portland cement in the production of concrete at various percentage replacement ranging from 5% to 25%. Now, the mix ratio that was adopted in this is mix ratio 1:4, and at the same time, water cement ratio of 0.5 was used in this research. As you can see from this graph, for the various percentage replacement of waste paper ash in the concrete at different percentage replacement, you can see from this graph that the strength development for 7 days, for 14 days, for 21 days, and 28 days. Now, at 5% percentage replacement for 7 days, there is an highly gain of strength in the concrete. You can see from this graph that about 65% gain of strength in concrete, for where we have a 5% percentage replacement of cement with waste paper ash. And also at 21 days, you can see that there a significant increase in strength, in the compressive strength of this concrete. Also, you could check at 10% replacement, 15% and 20% replacement. Next slide, please. Now, in the evaluation of the compressive strength of the concrete where the cement is replaced with waste paper ash at different curing ages. If you look at this graph very well, at the different percentage replacements, if you look at the curing age for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, and 28 days, you could notice that for the increment in the curing ages, there is an appreciable increment in the compressive strength of this concrete. Now, for 7 days curing age, for 20% for 7% 7 days curing age, you could see that there is an increment, a slight increment, and for 14 days, 28 days, and 21 days, and 28 days. So it tells us that there is an appreciable increment in the compressive strength of this concrete, where we have percentage replacements of waste paper ash as replacement for our Portland cement. Next slide, please. Now, for conclusion, number one, compressive strength result revealed an increase in strength as curing time increases for all replacements. The 7 to 28 days compressive strength from 0% were 11.6 and 15.6 at 7 days and 28 days. Then, secondly, we notice that waste paper ash has personality properties, and this was revealed in the result of the compressive strength, where we have the different percentage replacement. This tells us that for our waste paper ash, it exhibits a personality characteristics, where we actually have a pore structure refinement in the pore structure of the concrete, which eventually leads to an increment in the compressive strength of the concrete. Then also, the mix was, however, less workable compared to normal concrete because of the introduction of waste paper ash. So definitely there will be a need for an increment or another test to actually determine an appropriate water cement ratio for that kind of concrete. Next slide, please. Then also, the mix ratio, the water cement ratio should also be fixed, like I earlier mentioned. Then finally, future works in the direction should only be carried out if raw materials and other facilities and equipment, for example, burst furnace, are locally available, and the various operations, which is, burning, chemical analysis, and so on, can be well monitored and supervised so that we can actually arrive at a material that we can actually recommend as being sustainable and durable. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. This is a work from an MTech research. The intent is to see how we could produce ceiling tiles from available local materials. All of us know what we call locust bean. In Yoruba, they call it iru. In Hausa is dawadawa. And I think another version of it in Igbo is ogiri. But we are not using the dawadawa or the iru or the ogiri in this research. We are only using the pod. After you harvest, you break, it comes as a long pod like the way you harvest beans. And when you remove the dawadawa, you have the pods left. So what we are using in this research is the pod, and we are using it as the binder in this tile production. And the basic thing we are doing with it is to soak it and allow it to form a solution with which we will now use as the binder for our material. Next slide. My presentation outline, I have introduction, materials and methods, results and discussion, and conclusion. We all know that building is an essential need for every member of the society. And it's made up of different components. You have the structural members, which gives the strength. Then you have the partition walls, and you have the curtain walls and the ceiling. The focus of this research is to look at the ceiling, and the challenge of availability and affordability has been a recurring thing in housing, and prices are always on the high. Somebody was speaking beside me this morning. He said dollar is now 1,000 naira, and you can imagine what will be the interpretation on building materials, especially the imported materials. You can also look at the interpretation of the removal of fuel subsidy on production process for some of the conventional materials, transportation and the likes. The need is there for us to look at available local materials. And this is why we are looking at this particular material. What we are using in this work for the ceiling production is laterite. In every construction site, mostly in Nigeria, when you do excavation, what you have is laterite. So it's like available material. But what is important is you need to ascertain that the laterite is of a good quality for work. We are also using rice husk ash. But in this case, we are not ashing it. We are using the rice husk fiber, which is when you harvest rice, the leftover of the shaft is what we call the fiber. You could have fiber also from acha. The nutritionist talked to us about acha yesterday. You could have fiber from millet. You could have from sorghum. So the thinking is these materials, those of us that have been to the environment where they are harvested, post-harvest waste is always enormous. Wind comes, blow it around, it even causes what we call river blindness and the like. But if we can have a more economic use, we will not only be managing the waste, we will also convert it to a more purposeful use. And that is what necessitates this research. We also need to check whether the ceiling tile produced meets some functional requirements. We know the essence of ceiling is aesthetics, acoustics, control, durability, fire resistance, thermal insulation, and accessibility. So we know the ceiling material must, to some extent, be able to resist water penetrating into the house. And these are some of the tests we conducted on this research. So we look at the rising need for sustainable materials, which led to research for alternative materials. And like I told you, we are having this ceiling as an alternative to our conventional cement fiber board, what we call asbestos ceiling sheets or ceiling tiles. Now, argument has been there that the asbestos fiber is not good for health, it causes cancer and things like that. That I might not want to go into too much today. But in the building industry, they don't call it asbestos fiber again because they are using other fiber. So they call it cement fiber board. Now, what is important there is that the major binder in this type of tiles is the cement. But in this case now, the alternative we are looking at is using our laterite and the locust bean pour solution as what we bind together, while the fiber will now be our rice husk ash. So in this work, you have the paper in the proceedings, page 67 to 77. You can go through it later. In this work, we refer to laterite as LAT, while we refer to rice husk ash as RHF, and we refer to locust bean pod solution as LBPS. So as I will be going, you'll be seeing such appearing. Now, materials and method. The materials, as I mentioned to us, is the Portland cement, lateritic soil, rice husk fiber, and LPS. That's the LPBS, locust bean pod solution. We looked at material characterization. That's to look at what are the characteristics of these materials. We carried out particle size distribution on laterite and the rice husk fiber. We carried out XRF, that's X-ray fluorescence, on laterite and the locust bean pod solution. We carried out liquid limit, plastic limit, and plastic index test on the laterite, and we carried out moisture content on the RHF and the laterite, and also the specific gravity of the three materials, laterite, RHF, and Portland cement, were looked at. The experimental program for the matricular material, we varied the laterite and RHF content from 70-30, that is 70 laterite, 30% RHF. Then we continuously reduce it to up to the time we get to 30-70, which is now 30 laterite, 70% RHF at 10% step intervals. We also made use of the locust bean pod solution at 50 gram per liter, 50 gram per liter, 30 gram per liter, and 10 gram per liter. And the major test carried out on the tile was the water absorption and the flexural strength. Now you could see on your board the mixed proportion. We have 3 categories of mixes apart from the control. The control uses cement as the binder, but we still have 60% laterite, 40% RHF. And the water, the binder composite is 0.6. So when you're talking of water binder content is at 0.6. Then we looked at 50 gram per liter for LPBS, while we vary, as I told you, the laterite to RHF, 70, 30, 60, 40, 50, 50, 40, 60, and 30, 70. Then we also have 30 gram per liter for LBS as binder. Then we vary laterite at the same proportion. Then 10 gram per liter, and we vary laterite and RHF at the same proportion. The binder composite remains 0.6 all through. For the water absorption test, we use the ASTM D743 2013 edition as our standard for check, and the sample size produced was 400 by 400 by 40 mm, and it was kept in the oven for 2 hours after molding before it was now cured. Then for flexural test too, we use a 450 by 450 by 70 millimeter sample, and the code used there was ASTM D1037 of 2012. The specimen were oven dried after 24 hours of casting under a temperature of 80 degrees for 24 hours according to established literatures. Then the results, before we look at the tile itself, we had a look at the properties of the laterite, and we need to be sure it forms to a classification of AHSHO. And from that, we found that it can be classified as an A27 laterite. What do I mean by that? There are properties expected. One of them is percentage passing 75 micrometer sieve, which must not be greater than 35%. In this work, it was 8% that passes. The finest modulus was found out to be 3.41, and the code requirement says between 2 to 4.0. So we felt it fills in. Then the liquid limit was 47.7, and the code says it must be greater than 41. We had a plastic limit of 23.32, plastic index of 24.38, and the code says it must be greater than 11. The moisture content was 14.75, specific gravity 2.67, and silica sesquio oxide ratio 1.3. You could see the plot of the particle size distribution for the laterite as shown. And on the next slide is the oxide composition for the laterite, for the liquid pore solution, and compared to the Portland cement. We observed that laterite was majorly silica, aluminum oxide, and ferric oxide. The silica was 53.4, aluminum 23.3, and ferric 17.9. And the total was noted to be above 70% as required. Above 50 was also required for another class, and above 50 for another class. But when we check other properties, we could see that this laterite falls to a class F pozzolanic material, and the LBS2 was a class F pozzolanic material. Now, the next result is the results of the water absorption. We have three categories of results shown in that slide, and the first one was for when we have the poured at 50 grams per liter, the second one 30 grams per liter, and the third category is the 10 grams per liter. We compared those results, and we noticed that the water absorption was on the increase. Aside the first mix, which was 70-30, after it dropped down from 70-30 for the 60-40, it kept being on the increase. And whether we varied the poured solution or not, we discovered that that trend remained the same. Now, we also observed that the poured solution that has a manageable water absorption was the 50 grams per liter of LPBS. And from that, we observed that a 60-40 mix seems optimum for that particular material. Now, the next slide is flexural strength. For the flexural strength, the trend also looks similar to what we saw before, but in this case, the 70-30 had a lower strength than the 60-40. So the 60-40 was still the highest for strength for the three varied LBS content. And we observed that after that 60-40, the trend was dropping. But one unique thing was that the ultimate of the strength, which was 60-40, was also similar to the mix that we had for Portland cement. It was also 60-40. But the cement binder had a strength which is double the strength we had for the LPBS binder. And in conclusion, we had the following inferences. Lateral sample used is a suitable A27 classification of AHSHO and a class F pozzolana classification of ASTM C618. The LPBS is also class F pozzolan, and we discovered that 60-40 laterite RHF at 50 grams per liter was the best performed of the sealing samples using LPBS. But we observed that the water absorption also shows that same sample as the best performed for when we are using laterite and RHF with the LPBS as the binder. But we observed that it was just half of the flexural strength that the control gave. So we believe it can still be improved upon. We believe we have not gotten there, but it's an indication that working on 60-40 laterite to RHF, we should be able to arrive at a good tile from this material. So in recommendation, we said binary blend of laterite and RHF with 60-40 composition at 50 grams per liter. LPBS concentration is recommended for consideration and sealing time for good water absorption and flexural strength performance. Thank you for listening.
Please let us appreciate Thank you for not spending more than 50 minutes. Thank you very much. That is a very
chair. So second paper, evaluation of strength characteristics of paper ash. My own submission on this is that have we started separation of our waste? In Lagos, we have the way in which we pack our waste, but not all households have started adopting this. Where are we going to get this paper ash? Have we started separating our waste? So the essence of this paper is that we should start thinking towards that. If we start separation of our waste from our homes, not packing everything together, it will assist in achieving the purpose of this research work. And that's the only thing, the issue that are able to get there. It will assist in the problem that we get from in the usage of ordinary cutlass cement. What we are saying that we have a lot of carbon dioxide, emission of carbon dioxide from usage of cutlass cement. But with the addition of paper ash, we'll be able to reduce it minimally. So I think and we increase the compressive strength of concrete. But the issue is that, are we ready? Can we get the quantity needed for these advantages that we are looking at? Then the last paper, when I heard of low-cost pills, where do we get local pills? I know some from from one side of Ogun State, maybe from Shaki side or something like that. And I'm aware that from Yewa North, we have some local
you, sirs. Well, we've heard comments from the other discussants, and I believe the presenters are taking note of some of the issues raised. First, let me take a look at the three papers together. And I want to say that one way or the other, the three papers are actually relevant to the theme of this conference. The three papers are trying to address the issue of sustainability, which relates to the use of locally available materials as opposed to adoption of the use of imported conventional materials. It has to do with the issue of waste reduction, recycling of waste, or what we see as waste. And we make use of those waste materials again for some other purposes. Can they still be useful? It also, the papers, one of the papers also tried to address the issue of reduction of carbon dioxide emission, which eventually leads to climate change. And some of the materials that have been investigated in the three papers also are aimed at improving the durability and probably, if they are available locally, to reduce the ultimate production cost. I think this is one thing we can take away from these three papers, and the fact that they are all relevant to the theme of the conference. Let's take the paper one after the other, just like my colleague has done. Okay, before then, let me also say this, that the presenters had very wonderful, interesting, beautiful PowerPoint presentation. Some of the things they have shown us in their PowerPoint presentation, if some of them have been included in that format, in the proceedings that we have before us, it will be better. So, the case of Usho, please, I want you to take note of that. Some of your presentations are clear enough, straightforward, and can easily be well understood, even by laymen, in contrast to what we have in this paper. So it's not that what they are presented is not actually not different from what we have inside the paper, but the mode of presentation, right, was better with the PowerPoint presentation than the way it was written in the papers. Now, effect of clay pozzolana on the consistency and certain types of blended cement. A good job has been done by the researchers. And I want to say this, maybe I will differ from Dr. Kennedy on this issue. As builders, we need chemistry. Chemistry is a tool that we have to make use of in carrying out some of our tasks, especially those of us who are researching into materials. You can't get good results from materials without good knowledge of material characterization. And you need a little bit of chemistry to be able to understand this. And that is what, in the first paper, if you are talking of clay, whether clay in Otta or clay in London, as long as the word clay is used, it's a generic name that covers a group of materials that share similar properties in terms of their mineralogical composition, in terms of their chemical composition, in terms of their physical characteristics. However, they cannot all be the same with respect to these factors. And that is the reason why when you are taking a material, even if it is called clay, it is very important that the researcher must first of all ascertain that it is clay, and also it is also useful for the purpose for which it is intended. So if you take a clay from water, it is still very important that you still carry out chemical characterization, material characterization of that particular material, even if you are taking another clay from Botangura or from any other source. The issue of studying the characteristics of the materials enables us to be able to have a better understanding of the usefulness of those particular materials. And that has been done by two of the presenters. The first presenter and the last presenter, they actually did well when it comes to the material characterization. But the second presenter took his own characterization from literature, if I'm right. And I want to suggest a further research, right, into that, so that it can enrich your presentation in future. Well, I'm not going to ask questions. I'm only discussing, right? And I will leave the questions to the audience so that the presenters can answer the question. But these are well-prepared papers and well-researched, and I think we should commend them for the good work done. Thank you very much. Yes. Questions now. Questions for the presenters? Okay. Number one, please, I'm going to, because we have little time, I'm going to give you numbers. Yeah, Professor Atta. Number 2, sir. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Just 5 questions. Number 1.
Thank you, sir. I commend the presenters. I only need clarification from paper 1. So the presenter, I will read a portion of your write-up. Then I will go to your conclusion. I want to help me clarify, or I want to be tutored. On page 49 of your write-up, you are talking about consistency of concrete. Yes, I read. It can be observed that the consistency steadily decreases with increasing proportion of the clay pozzolana. I stop there. I now go to the next page. Your conclusion, number 3. The calcined clay pozzolana decrease the consistency. How do you manage the two together? The one says, if my understanding of consistency is still correct, it still is with which concrete will flow. But you are saying in a breath that it will decrease it. In another breath, you are saying it will improve it. Can you please throw more light onto it? Thank you very much.
I commend the presenters for a job well done, but I want to add some critical information to the presentation. It would be nice to make the papers a little bit less academic by providing insights on the research methods. For instance, you spoke about calcination, that is burning of these materials to get pozzolanic content. The temperatures you mentioned, it could have been nice to make a photograph of that machine, they calcine them, because we even have local blacksmiths where this can be undertaken. And if you have also brought out specimens in your presentation, it would be nice to bring out the specimens. For the ceiling, for instance, you mentioned the size. If you presented the real objects, we look at the thickness, we look at the texture, and also the test method. So they have been made so academic. For instance, what mode was used for the production of the ceiling? We need to see the mode. So that if it is possible for the audience to adopt the technology or making the most for the ceiling, we will key into it. So if there is need to make them less academic, you just went into the lab and did that, and you are bringing the results. It could be nice to see those specimens physically. It wouldn't be out of place. Okay. I was trying to say that it would be nice, even at this conference, if you bring the specimens of what you are talking about. For instance, that ceiling you are talking about, if you have done that to the lab, you could bring the specimen here. We see the mode, you present the mode too, so that if it is something that can be adopted, and we see the improvements we need to make. I also say the boning of the pozzolana. Where were they burnt? Was it an industrial casting machine you used, or was it a blacksmith you took it to? Because they also have facilities that can help in burning pozzolana, so that we can see how we can key into the technology of doing what you are presenting here, even at the local level. Thank you.
Please, your name, sir.
I am Dr. Elijah Akaka-Sihime, an associate professor in building at Benue State University, Makurdi.
Thank you. The first one that has a question, please introduce yourself quickly.
Oh, I'm Professor Bengata from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 3.
I'm Dr. Okoyemi Joshua. My question goes basically to the first presenter. It's a common knowledge that when you introduce pozzolans into our concrete production, it delays certain times. It's a common knowledge. So when you say you are checking the effect of certain times of the material that you are using, your need for the study or it didn't really bring out why you should go into the need for for checking the certain times. I think you should, is either you just check the strength, or if you want to make emphasis on checking the certain times, you should look at your need for the study and tell us why we need that certain time. I think that's one. Then you do make statement that consistency is a function of certain time. You made that statement during your presentation on several times. But my knowledge on preparing paste of standard consistency is that there's a standard consistency for all the material that you are going to use. Then it's based on that standard consistency, which will be the same for all, that you are going to check the certain time. So we still need some clarification in that area. I think that's just my question. Thank you.
Number 4. Number 5, you get ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is actually a comment, and it relates to what. Okay, my name is Builder Joseph Aneju. Like I said, mine is actually a comment, and it relates to what the first panelists, talked about papers being theoretical, or they don't have direct bearing to practice in respect to to the building profession. In all profession, I want to say, in all profession, practice is driven by the people in the field. The theoretical components of the methods and materials that are used in all professions are actually developed most of the times by the academics. A common example is self-compacting concrete. It was actually developed by a professor in Japan. But the guidelines with respect to its production and use, they have been developed by people that are outside the academics. And so when we come for gatherings like this, and we have papers, most times presented by academics, we expect that they present results that are obtained in the lab. And like I mentioned yesterday, these are things for us to actually put into practice. And like I said, we can start small. People have, tested concrete types using various types of, pozzolanas or some supplementary cementitious materials. Now, we may not start using those kind of materials in critical structural elements. For instance, like one of these presenters, the strength level achieved, in the research was low. I think it was around 15 Newton per square millimeters. Now you can use that one. Those of us that are in the field, we can use that particular, material to maybe in a building. You use it to produce something like lintel, which is not a very critical structural element in a building. Now, when you use it and it works, you now come, as somebody that is practicing in the field to present to us your practice notes. And that is why many people, they go to conferences and workshops to actually learn practical methods of doing things. Now the theory is developed to tell you that, okay, this particular kind of materials, it works. It is now left for you that is in the field to go and put it into practice, saying that, okay, this thing, no, I tested it and it actually works, or I tested it, I had to make this particular adjustment or take these particular steps for it to function better. That is how, practice is developed. And that is why I said practice in all professions, even in medicine, is, driven by the people in the field, while the theoretical components actually come from the people in academics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last question.
My name is Builder Mrs. Mudashiru from Fiscal Facility University of Jos. Actually, it's an observation and most people have hinted on it. It's just for me to highlight a bit. Just like the last speaker said and the second person observed, we that are in practice, we always appreciate when pictures and videos of certain things are being shown. The technology has gone far. Everything should not be book. I believe there are artisans here that even we that work with them directly in the field, we will appreciate it when certain things are being shown to us in a picture form or in a video form, which most we should know that the internet have is, even if you don't know anything, once you go to internet, you will get the details and step by step of how certain things are going. So it's just for us to key it in the next conference that Niob is organizing. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are glad to say that we are getting these very wonderful comments from the audience. And I think our leaders are taking note of this also, so that those who are going to present papers in subsequent conferences will be advised to show us those things that can bring theory close to practice, so that the audience can have a better understanding. Thank you very much. I'll go back to the presenters so that they can answer the questions briefly. Please, I want you to be brief in your presentation, in your answering.
Most of the questions that were asked pertaining the pozzolana, I think they are related. So I'll start by answering at this point. When I started the presentation, I gave a brief background of the pozzolana that I
which the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute started so that to reduce the cost of cement by partial replacement of a supplementary cementitious material in cement. So it's a research endeavor of which we know that pozzolana is it belongs to a class of a supplementary cementitious material, which is also a mineral admixture. So aside reducing the cost of maybe cement by partial replacement of cement, it is also combined with cement to solve some of the problems associated with cement, such as the other product of hydration of cement, which is calcium hydroxide, which we know that it is susceptible to chemical attack. Research has shown that combining cement and pozzolana, pozzolana being a siliceous material, usually combined with the calcium hydroxide that cement produces and further produce more calcium silicate hydrate, which is a major cementing property in cement. So after the production of pozzolana, it is expected that tests are carried out by blending the pozzolana with cement, and such tests include all the tests that are associated with cement, like the paste characteristics, which is the consistency, like I define consistency as the water requirement or the level of wetness or fluidity of the cement paste, and setting time of cement, which is a transition time of cement hardening from when it starts stiffening or hardening to when it completely hardens. So to the application of this pozzolana and cement in terms of its strength or the compressive strength and other properties of cement. So the paste characteristics, which is the consistency and setting time, is the first stage of the test carried out, where further studies or further research will be carried out on the strength of the pozzolana blended cement.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. I want to react to the question raised by the first speaker, is how do they get the should do this research. We talked about the paper is and as regards the chemical analysis of the material, it is very important.
Thank you. Let me take it from where I started. The chairman ABBA talked about sorting our waste. If we get to the level where in waste management our waste are sorted, solid waste can be separated from the other ones. Apart from paper ash, there are researches on the water, pure water sachets and all those things. So I think this research is pouring really for our waste management, and we talk about circular construction, where you try to bring about reuse of the waste material. We might not be able to elicit volume for now, but with time we could see. And talking about low-cost pod, you were asking where do we have them available. I'm sure my people from Niger State were eager to answer you. Come to Kotangora, you will see heap of the pod after they have harvested the dawadawa. Any environment where they grow the low-cost bean, we always have the waste. Now, in those environments, those waste are biodegradable until you surely look for a way to take them off. They still become a nuisance, and that is where the thinking is. In this particular research, we're not burning. We don't really need large volume. All we need is soak it and establish a concentration of solution where we now dry and we now use in some percentage. So I don't think, if you look at the people in the local environment, they do attend to their housing needs with their own materials, and we can still improve on those our local materials to meet affordability in the conventional construction process. Also, somebody talked about clay types and suitability. I think it was Mr. Kennedy. The chairman already mentioned to us. That's why we talk about material characterization. Before you use any material, you need to check whether it will be able to fit the use to which you want to support it. And that's for. So this is what we talk about in material characterization. I want to commend him on the importance of acoustics, fire resistance, and the rest for ceiling tiles. This particular research is just the first stage. We have an ongoing work on fire resistance, on acoustic assessment of this particular research. There was something mentioned about facilities for calcination. Generally, when you talk about ash, the challenge is always the method of burning, which we talk about as calcination. And there are many research ongoing where we are trying to improve on methods of calcination. In Mina, we have been able to develop a means. We have a local fabricated item that if you want to calcinate up to 100 grams at 100 kilograms at once of ash, and we could achieve without electricity. We are using either charcoal or cooking gas, and it's giving us good products. I think it's basically about collaboration with the people in practice and the industry. Academics, we can come with the idea, we might not have the fund to push it too much, but until you show interest in the ideas you bring, we might not see what we are talking about. There was this mention about PowerPoint presentation different from the paper. At the PowerPoint level, it is expected that the author will come and speak to you. And we believe that images, charts, figures will make you see it better than we writing so many words, which is in the article. If you want to read the details, you can go back to the proceedings. Within 15 minutes, if I need to read even what is in the proceedings, I might not be able to finish it. So that is why we compress it into images, into charts, through which you can easily pick what we are talking about. Thank you, sir.
Let us appreciate them. This session is gradually coming to an end, and I know immediately after this session, you are going to see something that will be quite interesting. It's not me that will tell you that, to reinforce exactly what we are talking about. But before we end this session, let me say this, that the discussants are not saying, they are not criticizing your power presentation. What we are saying is that there are certain things that were shown in the power presentation that ordinarily should also be in the body of the paper, right? Very important, and the audience has actually told us some of these also diagrams, figures, right? Machines or procedures and so on and so forth, summarized in a way that we can better understand. And let me also advise the first presenter also, you can carry your research further
I think we should give a round of applause to our chairman, to the panelists. We are learning. When you come for conference or any program, it's a learning period. I too am learning. May I ask us something, a question? Somebody said biodegradable. What's the meaning of biodegradable now, sir? Who can interpret it? In Yoruba? In Igbo. So I understand. So you people, our people, you have done very fine. We really thank you very much. I want to say something, if you will allow me, kindly permit me. There is nothing, I've said it before, as practical as theory. When our people present here, it is for us to get ideas that an entrepreneur may pick up. Like I told us in the morning, of us know this mattress, this orthopedic mattress by Vitafoam. It was the outcome of a research in Unilag. Somebody in Vitafoam was saying that is that research they used to produce the orthopedic mattress. And they are making a lot of money. Then another thing, all of us are talking about MVQ now, am I right? What we are doing, MVQ, I mean, National Qualification Framework. Maybe some of us don't know the history. It was a lecturer in University of Benin. It was his idea that UK took. UK, this Britain, whatever we are doing here, it's a Nigerian that brought the idea from academics. So what we are saying in essence is, though I know the grammar is much about degradable, calcination, but I think what we need to do is that we can collaborate with our colleagues. These are fantastic ideas, and somebody over there may say, I don't care for your grammar and everything, I want to fund it. I know a PhD student that use bottles, pure water nylon. Our late vice chancellor in Unilag, Professor Ibida, drain that is blocking river. What are you people doing? Now, people are already doing research. They have sent it. They made it. One PhD student in building in one university used the nylon and produced what he called PET blocks. I know you have seen the one where they arrange bottles. He produced the blocks. He brought the blocks that he produced, and they discover it's strong. The next thing that young man can do now is how to make it interlocking blocks. So, my dear people, there is a law we can do. Another person in a department in building, do you know this bamboo? This bamboo can be turned to like plywood. Not just for something that it stays for a long time. And do you know at a forum where it was presented, some people with money, they are ready to fund it. So when we present like this, we may have people with ideas, and you may get entrepreneurs, you may get funders, and it can be funded. Construction site some years ago, no research. The young man, we were doing about 5 floors, and the young man went to buy gear of motor, gear of vehicle, and he did his own something like crane so that we can carry from the ground floor. He will put in gear 1, the something will stop at the first floor, second floor, and that's how we're bringing material peak. One of us was in Ahmadu Bello University 2 weeks ago, and we saw the rice husk ash. I mean that they are blended. It was just like cement. The challenge will have been that if we have somebody who can fund it, what stops us? Then somebody has been asking about how do we get enough materials. Do you know that rice is so plenty in the northern part of the country? Am I right? By the time we are using the byproducts, the waste product, it will encourage the to farm more. Am I right? Our panelists, builder Professor Atta, kindly come up. Builder Professor Atta. Builder Professor Rahim, are you there? Builder Professor Akim Rahim. Builder Professor Shehu Bostani is busy somewhere. And I will kindly request Builder, our past president, Builder Shukso Meife, to please come up. Builder Kenneth Nduka, I've not seen him. But Builder Professor Atta, you kindly share the session. Builder Professor Akim Rahim, are you there? Okay. Is that the representative of His Royal Majesty? Well, okay. No problem. Dr. Joshua, kindly get to the stage. So what is going to happen right now is that one of our colleagues will show a video. We did our workshop this year, I think around May. And when we did the workshop, Mr. President mandated him that he should show a video to this audience in our AGM. So we very shortly, Dr. Olawuyi will show a video. It is after that that we will now go to the paper presentation. Is the video ready, please?
It has a slide back. Thank you, Prof. I see it as a privilege to be given this opportunity to present to us on 3D concrete printing process and procedures. I took up the challenge as thrown to me at the MCPD when my past president tried to show us a video and we could not get what we needed. And I remember Dr. Aladi Loba said, "It's a promise you must keep." I said, "Yes, it's a promise that I intend to keep." And thank God today, I'm here keeping that promise. What is 3D printing? It's basically about having concrete printed the same way they print plastics or the same way they print images. You can see the picture there. It's showing a nozzle head and concrete is what is coming out instead of ink coming out of it. And we have a video, we have like 3 videos, but we have just 2 that are not too long that will show us some understanding of the printing process. Then I already agree with them, maybe during our leisure time, they will be playing the other one that is long. It shows the complete structure and how the various facets of the building are involved. Just like we could see, these are objects made from the printing process, but this is actually the concrete printing. You see, it's going from the nozzle and forming our wall in 2 layers, in 2 phases, in layers. And that is, there is a need to undo the material processing to be able to have it come out of the nozzle so that it will not be blocked. There is a need to undo consistency so that it will not be too watery and it will be pouring away. There is a need to also undo hardening so that it will not take too long for it to set so that you can have another layer come on it. And these are the intricacies in concrete 3D printing. Like you could see, the nozzle goes as directed by an automatic base. It is also an introduction of artificial intelligence in construction. It has an idea of coming up with the concept and breaking it into pieces of, okay, what layers do we need first and things like that. But most important thing for us in this environment, which had made people to think, it's an impossible task, is how do we get machine that could print? And how do we get materials that could come out of the nozzles? Like we see in that process, it's of conventional concrete materials, cement, sand, water, and aggregates. But you have what we call admixtures that will help modify the water requirement. It has plasticizers introduced. They are liquid form or plastic form. All they do is to help it hold on, not to add in too fast or add in too slowly for you to be able to form your set, and it will give us the concrete we are looking also. We also need to work on the sizes of our aggregates. If we are using coarse aggregate that's too big, our conventional 20 mm, 19 mm, it will be difficult for it to come out of this nozzle. So it has to be finer aggregate sizes. People, my colleagues in concrete, know when we talk about self-compacting concrete, we don't go beyond around 8 mm aggregate size because of the ease for it to flow and not to segregate. This also applies here. But beyond having a concrete that will flow, it must also set fast. And that is why the mix of the concrete has to be what we call the dry hardening concrete. For some of us, the concrete they get from this, the second video, as we are talking, the concrete they get from this will be concrete that gives us strength above 45 Newton per meter squared. Because for it to actually set fast, it must be sticky. Though it's still flowing, but you will notice that within some few minutes, it has begun to dry. And that is why they could be able to come up for another layer. It goes layers by layer, and it looks, of course, close to our brick setting whatsoever. But the only basic thing is that you have a line of wall made together at once, and you need to be, it requires precision. It's not something that workers will be lazy about or miss attention. You move your face off, you might have poured away the concrete, or they might no more be in alignment. And that is why the technology required needs to be promoted in our immediate environment. I got a ship in Singapore. Unfortunately, I was denied work permit, so I could not go. But I did not stop my interest. My supposed host invited me for online Zoom, and I was involved in their discussions. And I kept relating with people that are privileged to work on 3D concrete. And I want to tell us, we have two of our own builders who are currently involved. We have John Kolawole, who used to be in OAU. After his PhD in Stellenbosch, he's now in UK as a research fellow on 3D concrete printing. And we have Baba Femi, who is currently in Stellenbosch, and he was involved in 3D concrete mini printer. So that it is difficult to get printer is getting to be off the way, because our people are also getting involved in fabricating the printer. And you will notice that it has to move at a speed. The speed is controlled from a control room, which is like the computer, and it could either be a ball-like extract from the nozzle or a rectangular shape extract. And the kind of extract it comes with is what will give you the finishing you get on the surface of the wall. After finishing, it depends on you. Whether you want to still do plaster, you want to tile, they can still do. And if you don't want to, you can still leave it as a natural surface finish, and you will get what you are. Now, what they are casting here is a lintel. So all they needed was just put the formwork, and the machine moves on top of the formwork to form the concrete on top. So within some few hours, some few days, you can have a whole structure in place. Now, what is the challenge to us builders? We need to be more involved in material characterization. Our knowledge of concreting needs to improve. It is not just the concept of pour more water so that it can flow. No, it is now the knowledge of what level of flow am I looking for? What strength do I want to achieve? And what are the materials that I need to bring in? For 3D concrete, they also bring in this, our agro waste materials. In one of the feature we saw, what they were pouring in as filler in between the spaces was rice husk fiber. They did not ash it this time, they only shred it, and it gave us the filler that will fill in the spaces. Now, there is a longer video which takes about 40 minutes. I already told the studio they will be playing it probably at our leisure time. You can take time. If we can get audio, you'll be able to see audio. But I'll be speaking through some basic things that we need on the slides to have an understanding of concrete 3D printing. Now, that image on the slide shows the concrete printing process. All you have is your nozzle and the concept of what you want to form, programmed in the computer, and with that, it goes along to where you need to go. Now, the printing process can be either off-site or on-site. Off-site, just the form of our precast concrete concept. But unlike the precast where we still use formwork and the rest, they will make these concrete elements in units through the printing process. And in off-site, they come to site to fix the materials. Now, in the off-site, you need virtually the same materials, the same process, but the involvement differs. At the off-site, you have the materials brought together, and you have the printer, and it forms the concrete element, is transported to site for assemblage. But for the on-site, you need to gather the materials together. Major challenge in the on-site is the installation of your printer. The printer will have to be installed with something that is like a frame concept that will have a rail to move along to be able to cast as the printer moves. The printer could be with an hoist that could move long distance, or it could be that the entire rail is moving on it. Now, there were studies of barriers on 3D printing. That seems not to be too clear. But one of the things they mentioned was environmental acceptance as one of the barriers to concrete 3D printing. Of course, in our immediate environment here, it is still look like, is this possible? But I want to tell you, it is very possible. But we need to begin somewhere. We might not be able to do the on-site at this moment, but we can still start with the off-site and assemble in our immediate environment. Then this is the process of the concrete 3D printing. It starts with the concept of the drawing, then you simulate it into a computer concept, and you have a place where your materials are selected, shredded, and the rest. Then you have a machine that you feed in the material to your conventional concrete mixer, and you put in all the constituent materials, your plasticizer, depending on slump retention period required, or your retarder or your set accelerator, depending on what you need for the time for the printer of one layer before another layer comes in. Then you have the code to be generated for the face, the shape, and the speed of printing. And of course, you have the raw materials fed in, and the rest is either your on-site concrete printing or your off-site concrete printing process. Like we could see there, we have the major issue of constraint for now for most of the on-site construction, which is the printer itself. But like I told you, even in Africa, we have had breakthrough where many printers have been able to be fabricated in the lab of a university. So that means if it can be done in our brothers' environment, then it can also be done here. And I want to tell you, to our amazement, it's some of our black brothers that are directly involved in the concept and development. I was privileged to be looking at one of the companies, Cobalt, and I discovered one of my colleagues during the PhD days happens to be the main man in Cobalt, which is one of the organizations that is doing concrete printing now. And Icon, the longer video is from Icon. Icon has and a community they are building with purely concrete 3D printing. And I believe some of us that could have time should take time to read through, and you'll be able to appreciate the essence. Now, the basic issues about concrete printing are, like we could see there, the strength in quality is 45 megapascal upward. It is a material that requires accuracy and consistency. You need to work on placement. You need to work on the area of constraint now is the regulatory compliance for the printing process. For sustainability, it is noted to be able to reduce waste, and it can also use sustainable materials. Our agro waste can also come in as either admixtures or as fillers. Then cost saving is said to be possible because you will have some level of reduction in labor. But this one fear that most of us in the developing countries are having is, will it not take away work from the people on site? But see, somebody will still feed the mixer. Somebody will still be involved in loading the transportation. Somebody will still be given the work of getting the material. So it will still also create employment. It's only that it will divert our thinking from intensive, you want to cast a slab now, you are putting so much number of people, man worker. No, that will be off. But they will be engaged in other areas of and speed. It actually enhances speed. I want to acknowledge Icon, Parametric Architecture, Inside Art for their videos. We have 3 videos from YouTube that shows. I also want to acknowledge Cobalt for a lot of the materials on the slide were their materials. Then lastly, I want to acknowledge my brother. Many people know him as my younger brother, Baba Femi, for making some of their slides in one of the webinar they did in Stellenbosch available for this presentation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, have we seen video now? It's not Turunshi, it's not Bukuru, it's not just Iwe. So thank you very much. Incidentally, let me be frank with you. 3D printing was presented at the Abuja Africa International Housing Fair. I was in a webinar before that where Professor Baba Femi and another lecturer in the Nigerian University building department where they went on research visit. And the one from Nigeria, the house was printed in 8 hours. As at the time I was in the webinar, I didn't know he's even a building graduate. Baba Femi finished from Obafemi Awolowo University. He's a building graduate, and he's the one leading, and they are trying to do research on 3D printing that can be a solution to our mass housing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you, Dr. Olawuyi. And we're going straight. Before we go, the Carbon chairman, my people on the high table, kindly bear with us, because he has so many other things to attend to. He just wants to talk to us some snippets. Thereafter, we go to the paper presentation immediately. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Prof. I promise that I won't take much time. The chairman of this session, and I can also see our past president and the presenter, the incoming president, past presidents, fellows, my colleague builders. I decided to come up here this morning to bring to bear my interest in this particular topic that we are discussing in this conference. First of all, before I forget, I want to congratulate the last presenter who showed us the video, and even Professor Baba Femi for their foresight and showing us what 3D printing is all about. You will recall that in my speech yesterday, I mentioned 3D printing. I want to challenge you now that we are expecting a draft of the regulation of 3D printing in Nigeria from you. So gather together all those of you who are in the academia and who are in practice, who will be able to come up with the regulations to guide 3D printing. We must take the leadership in building production in this country. Then I also want to congratulate our colleagues in the academia. Since yesterday, we have seen a lot of researches and efforts being made in cement replacement, in the various aspects of construction. Now, what I believe we should do henceforth is that not only will the researches be presented here, by the time we come here, we should have practicalized it in one of our centers in the country. That is to say, we need to link academia with practice before we come to the conference. So I want to challenge also our builders in practice. Form companies that can be used as pilot schemes for the researches that our colleagues in the academia are carrying out. We are having too many individual companies and we cannot make impact that way. We need to have major building companies. And I must inform you that of all the gamut of infrastructure management in this country, building is one that we have taken over 100%. If you go to the roads, you will find foreigners. If you go to the refineries, you find foreigners. If you go to the power sector, you will find foreigners. But in the building sector, we are totally in charge. And the country is expecting us to provide that leadership. And that leadership we are equipped to provide. Finally, I want to let us know that to further this, Cobon has established a resource center which will serve as a linkage between the researches being produced, the practice elements of it, and the marketability of our outcomes in the market. So we should be able now to come up with research, demonstrate it practically, then get investors to key in. And with our regulation, we should be able to get the public sector to adopt what we have done. So the ball is in our court. Let us not say that people are taking our place. We are indigenous and citizens of this country. The country is waiting for us to chart the way forward in our industry. And I pray that God will give us success. Thank you.
Another round of applause for the Cobon chairman. You know what? Somebody said men of ideas rule the world. When you have ideas, you can rule the world. All these issues are ideas. Thank you, sir, our chairman. We have had it all. Now we're going straight to the last technical session, which is being shared by Builder Professor Atta. The paper presenters should kindly come up. Paper 7, Exploring Various Concrete Technology Options and Applications in Nigeria by Adaji. Is Adaji around? Adaji, is he around? Okay, paper 8, Techniques of Cement and Concrete Production in Nigeria Construction Industry, a practical review by Balami CA. Kindly come up. Then the next one is an evaluation of bearing strength of lateritic soil cement mix for foundation application. It is after the presentation that you can ask your questions or make your comments. We want to see how we go round up around 2 after 2 because of other programs for the day. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not taking over your job, but what we kindly request you to do, sir, Mr. Chairman, is to help us coordinate the time. We have allowed 15 minutes before, but if our presenters can talk to the PowerPoint and take less time, we will appreciate it. Thank you very much. On this note, I hand over the microphone to Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, sir, thank you.
Follow, but there is a little adjustment. Each presenter will spend maximum of 10 minutes because of the next program. So I will call on Builder Adaji. 10 minutes, please. Strictly 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, the chairman and panel of this concert. Good morning, distinguished colleagues. I am Builder Dr. Adejo Amodu Adaji, an academic staff in the Department of Building, Nigeria Army University Bureau. I am here to present an ongoing research on exploring various concrete technology options and applications in Nigeria, a review. Thank you. The next slide, please. My presentation outline goes this way. I have introduction, literature review, material and methods, result and discussion, conclusion, references, and acknowledgement. Introduction. Concrete technology refers to the science and engineering involved in the development, production, and use of concrete, which is a widely used material. In the context of Nigeria, it plays a crucial role in the country's construction industry. But with the growing population and urbanization, it brings a pressure of high demand for infrastructure. In Nigeria, rapidly growing nations in West Africa, the use of concrete technology has been instrumental in meeting the demands of its expanding urbanization and infrastructural requirements. So now, Usman 2020 says focus on sustainable development. The Nigeria construction industry has adopted various construction technologies and applications to meet the challenges posing us. The next slide. Next slide. Next, please. Next. Okay. Despite the challenges facing us, authors like Zaka 2015 has made us to understand that there are limitations to that. Despite the potential benefit highlighted by scholars in this area, concrete technologies, the industry often relies on traditional policies and conventional concrete mixes. Understanding and implementing appropriate concrete technology option is essential for sustainable and durable construction in Nigeria. Hence, opting the technology, the screen is not too clear. Hence, explore technology options and application in concrete in Nigeria is becoming imperative. And that is why this study, being a literature review and at the literature review stage, intends to look at concrete technology, including the innovative materials, construction techniques, and sustainable practices that have revolutionized the construction industry. Next, please. Which is literature review. Based on various authorities in these areas, they were able to come up with areas where production should be looked. One, the high performance concrete. High performance concrete is engineered to possess superior mechanical properties, including high strength, durability, and enhanced versatility, workability rather. Other area is self-compacting concrete. Other places are fiber reinforced concrete and the grain concrete. Next. Literature review. A few review of this topic have been made by some authorities, whom among them emanated from amidst us. Somebody like Ogunbode, because of the time I may not go through all. Ogunbode, the material used, sorry, can I move to the other side? Okay, the materials, as I told us from the beginning, is extensively literature review and site visit, then interpretation. Next, result and discussion. Result and discussion. Despite the potential benefit offered by innovative concrete technology, the industry often relies on traditional practices and conventional concrete mixes, which are in tandem with the report of Usman and Ogunbode. Some key issues that were discovered as challenges in this area are limited awareness of knowledge. There is no much awareness on knowledge in this regards. Then we have resistance to change. Even for the few researchers who have done something profitable, but the adaptation to this knowledge that they have shared is another challenge. So we have challenge of inadequate research and development. We have challenge on environmental impact and sustainability. Next, please. Then, after the challenge, we'll now look at the prospect of concrete technology application in Nigeria. The prospect, where the areas that can benefit in these technology applications are listed there. Infrastructural development, residential commercial buildings, industrial facilities, renewable energy project, education and health facilities, among others. We have a place like heritage building. Please, next. In the course of the research, we discovered that there are areas that needs to be explored, areas that are not being made known to the public, and some of the areas are high-rise construction, sustainable infrastructure, smart cities, mass housing project, research and development. Next, please. Conclusion. From all that we have gone through, and seeing the extensive benefit to be derived from this, if adopted, we discover that continuous education and training is one of the ways forward. And I must applaud Niob and Cobon for championing this cause among other professional bodies in the country. And part of it is what we are hearing now, creating a forum like this in order for us to hear little knowledge and to better our society. Another way of moving forward is collaboration and knowledge sharing. Just as previous speakers have been saying, and the most recent, the Cobon chairman that just left the stage, he also called for collaboration among colleagues in the built environment to see how we can come with sustainable solutions to our immediate problems. Another area to look at is construction techniques and practices. The video display, the 3D video display, is a good example of a way forward on that matter. So embracing sustainable practices is another way that can help us in this area as well. So adopting these strategies highlighted above can maximize the utilization of available concrete options, leading to improved construction practices, enhancing structural quality and sustainable development in the nation. Next, please. Some few references extracted from the work displayed. Next. Acknowledgement. I want to appreciate my employer for the release to be here in attendance and to do this work. And secondly, I want to appreciate my co-authors for their maximum cooperation. And lastly, but not the least, I want to thank Niob for creating this forum where somebody like me can share little knowledge with distinguished colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. I still remain Builder Charles Balami, a staff of Department of Building, Nigerian Army University. I'm here to present a paper, a practical review on the techniques of cement and concrete production in Nigeria. For the past few days or hours, we've been talking about, from the theme of the conference, as cement and concrete advancement, research and application. This morning, I want to draw our attention to the practical application. We've been talking about cement production, concrete. So we need to understand from the introduction we have, next slide, that construction industry plays a vital role in the economic development of our country, which has a significant growth. And it is believed that cement and concrete are essential materials in the construction industries. Basically, we use cement for building our roads, buildings, and bridges. It is also noted that one of the primary substances used in the construction industry is the cement and aggregate, which we'll be looking at cement. Cement is a fine, soft, powdery substance which serves as a binder in the concrete production. Cement mixture mixed with water and aggregate form what is called concrete. In the 80s, cement were being produced by the Romans as a result of mixture of clay and volcanic ash. But in the 19th century, we now discover that we have what is being called Portland cement, where we have the cement production techniques, where we have our raw materials, where we also have the grinding and binding and blending processes through the clinker process, where we now come out with what is called the Portland cement. When we talk about concrete, concrete is a mixture of cement, water, and aggregate. Next slide. When we talk about concrete, it's the mixture of cement and water and other small aggregates to form the admixture. Looking at the process of concrete production, I just want to draw our attention to the stages of concrete production, where we have the cement supply, we also have the sand supply, the concrete supply, and the water. Basically, at this stage, we have the batching of materials, the ratio of what you are expected of, the mixture, transportation, placing, and compacting, then curing before the finishing process. There are basically different processes of cement and concrete mixture, where we have the volumetric batching of concrete ingredients, where we also have the volume match and concrete ingredients, weighing batching of concrete. These are some of the processes where we now produce based on the practical view. At the same time, it is important to note that in concrete mixture, aggregates are the most important thing, while also the cement binder is also very important. The characteristics of a well concrete are: one, the concrete has to have a uniform color mix, while it also has to be what? The cement paste should be at the same part with the aggregate, so that the color will be uniform. If we are able to do that, we'll have what we call a quality concrete and cement mixture. Basically, the method of mixing concrete, we have three that was identified. We have the hand mixed concrete, which we normally employ in our small sites for construction. We also have the machine mix of concrete, where we have the machine mixer, where we also have the ready-made mixed concrete, where we use the semi-automated badging mixer. Some of the factors that are being attached to concrete mix are the location of the concrete site. Is there sufficient land for the construction activity? Are there available space for the concrete badging to be put in place? The volume of concrete needed, and also materials used through this research was based on literature reviews and other conference materials based within the Northeast and also the capital city of Adamawa and Bauchi, Gombe. Some of the challenges that was identified in the process of our findings, there are inadequate infrastructures and logistics in the process of concrete and cement production on site. We also have limited availability of raw materials, lack of technical experience, expatriates, and training. We need to train ourselves to know. It's not just about mixing sand, cement, and aggregate, but we need to ensure that there is quality, standard, and durability. Findings from the site, major sites depends on cement, concrete mix quality, aggregates, curing practices. This is also one of the major challenges we need to understand. It's not after casting. We need to cure our concretes so that they can acquire the minimum strength being expected of. And from the conclusion of our presentation, it was recommended that there is need to establish cement and concrete management teams on site. Registered build industry professionals needs to be involved fully in construction site, and the skills and unskilled labor need to have a practical orientation in the process and application and how they will handle cement and concrete production on site. Next slide. Thank you. So with this presentation, I believe we need to have the practical application of our cement and concrete on site. I so submit.
Good afternoon, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ayeba Ferdinand Fidelis. I'm a student of the Federal University of Technology, Minna. And I'm presenting on an ongoing research on the evaluation of bearing strength of lateritic soil mix for foundation application. The presentation outline our introduction, statement of problems, under which we have materials and methods, result and discussion, conclusion, recommendation, and reference. The introduction. The soil bearing strength. The soil bearing strength is a key information that is required for the design of shallow and deep foundation. And in conventional engineering practice, the bearing strength of soil is estimated using either statistical or numerical methods. Both these methods can be achieved by knowing the soil characteristics and the features of the soil, so that it encourages the builder or the engineer to be able to come out with an output that will enable him or her to make a choice of the foundation is to be designed either for a building or road, in order to carry whatever load that will be coming upon it. And lateritic soil
Some has their own properties that do not require stabilization. But there are others that will need to be stabilized in order to remodel them to suit whatever purpose they are meant for, so long as construction is concerned. Now, statement of the research problems are cracking, stripping, and of surface material and routing are common failures that are associated with roads with lateritic pavement, according to Korean UK 2012, in the study of the framework for asphalt concrete pavement design for tropical soils. And these specific failures have been attributed to subsequent plastic deformation of roads pavement after a few years of being used or being open for use, especially under heavy traffic load. Now, the materials that are required for this research are: one, the lateritic soil, Portland cement, and borehole water. Now, the lateritic soils has these properties. One is the color, which is reddish brown, the specific gravity, which is between 2.64 and 2.68, the composition of cement with soil was between 2 to 12%, the soil, the moisture content 8.43%, the plasticity limit 14.11%, liquid limit 37.40%, and so on. Now, the major interest here is the ASTRO classification. The soil samples that were obtained from a depth between 0.5% and between 0.5 meters and 2 meters fall under the A6 classification according to American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. And what that means is that A6 lateritic soil fall under the class that has very low bearing capacity. And so that's one of the reasons why that informed the need for this study. Now, the sieve analysis of the lateritic soils that were obtained gave a percentage retained between 2.63 and 23.52%. And that is safe because it falls within acceptable range of the Nigerian General Specification for Highway 2000 of not exceeding 35%. Now, what we have on the screen is the summary of results of compaction characteristics of the lateritic soil that were subjected to test. And the MDD, that's the maximum moisture, the optimal motor content, OMC, and the maximal dry density. These are the two main compaction characteristics of laterite. And it all reduces until it got to 8% soil, which is the highest, and is being considered as the acceptable, based on the research, the acceptable soil that can be used for subgrade and base course material for road pavement. The next is the summary result of California Benny ratio for West African standard energy level at 7-day curing. Actually, this test was subjected to 7 and 14 days. So in the course of the study, it was discovered that those materials that were subjected to 14 days curing were of better stability than the 7 days curing. And it's still on the 8% cement stabilization that we got a better result. Meaning, the 8% stabilization is recommended to be used as a pavement for road construction because it will be able to withstand whatever load that comes upon it. So with the unconfined compressive strength, it was done for 7, 14, and 21-day curing. And from the result, it's still 8% stabilization that met the requirement for Highway Design 2000. And the conclusion. From the study carried out, we came up with this conclusion that the index property of soil reveals their own suitability as road construction material based on the A6 classification of ASHO, thus necessitating their enhancement for such purpose. Reduction in dry density indicates the need for low compaction energy to achieve maximum dry density with reduced cost of construction. Then the strength property of the compacted cured soil mixed improve with cement content from 0 to 8%. Recommendation. AC stabilized with cement above 12% can be investigated to determine if the mixture meets the minimum requirements for subgrade material as specified in local code. These are lists of selected references that were taken from the parent work. Thank you.
Self-compacting concrete, as the name implies, say that eliminates the use of vibrator in its displacement. In the fiber reinforced concrete, we mention steel, propylene or glass, and we mention that that has been toughness, tensile
creating awareness, resistance to change. A lot of us are used to mixing aggregates and just stick to that. And we also mentioned inadequate research and development in that area. And this is one of the reasons why these type of mass conflict are not utilized largely in our production sites. However, one of the things he said is that this type of mass concrete can assist in construction for specialized projects, like for high-rise building. You mentioned high-rise building can easily be used to achieve maximum strength. You also mentioned the issue of infrastructure. That for infrastructural projects, that requires good quality of materials. You mentioned that this type of mass concrete can also be utilized. And for the second paper that dealt with techniques of cement and concrete production in Nigeria, one of the things I picked from that paper is that a lot of time when the issue of buildings, construction, or poor quality work comes on board in most discussions, one of the things people say, they blame the concrete or the materials used. And I'm of the opinion that these materials are supposed to be used by a professional who understand the quality of these materials. The author tried to tell us in real sense that these materials, if properly applied in the way they are specified, they can attain that quality of work we are expected to use. And that was the core of the paper. He mentioned different production techniques of this concrete to achieve that quality of specification that is required. And that's about talk of the bearing strength of laterites. Also, this one paper is what I think is not being put to practical use in most areas because of awareness. Again, a lot of people will tell you that why will I want to do a laterized concrete mix? I remember a discussion I had many years ago about even clay bricks, using clay bricks to build houses. Our mentality here in this country is such that we are not open to new innovations. I say the only way brick can be used excessively and accepted is that government should introduce housing estates where these materials are being utilized. You can imagine in villages when you start building your house with clay bricks. People at that level will not see the quality of the job of the materials you are using because of the tradition and our mentality. So the author tries to tell us what I want to do in the use of this soil cement mill in achieving the quality of work we expect. And for me, I think that is very, very quite newsworthy. Thank you.
President, taking a very long time what the presenter. The next person will be Dr. Joshua.
Thank you very much. Let's go straight to the first part, exploring various communities issues. The presenter made us know that we have
Light soil and I'm saying how? You are not using only cement. You are adding cement to the laterite. How does this bring about cost reduction? And I'm going through the main paper. There was nowhere you even discuss cost. So where is the reduction coming from? So I think we have to take note of that and add it when you are. Then, still on that, you also talk about addition of cement content exceeding 8%, resulting in soil strength reduction. I feel when you add cement to soil, there should be increase in strength. But here you are saying you're adding cement to the soil and you are having reduction in strength. And I say something must be wrong somewhere. So maybe you have to look at that again and see what really happened. And even when you said that, you do not provide solution. You did not tell us how and what brought about the reduction in strength. I think that's very, very important to include. By and large, I think there are good presentations, and I want to encourage us to do more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rai. Well, the first presenter, his paper is exploring various concrete technology options and applications in Nigeria. It's supposed to be a review. Well, as the chairman, I'm not supposed to talk about my reservation, but others will talk about it. But the man has been able to explore some options that are available in making concrete in Nigeria. He has listed a lot of concrete, like some advances in concrete technology in Nigeria, like high performance concrete, self-compacting concrete, fiber reinforced concrete, and the green concrete. He is able to tell us where those things can be used. There are other materials that can be used to reduce and elongate the life of concrete. He mentioned them like fly ash based concrete, geopolymer, etc., etc. He then concluded that concrete technology options and applications are many in Nigeria that offer a range of possibilities for meeting the country's infrastructural demands. That's the first paper. The second paper, titled Techniques of Cement and Concrete Production in the Nigeria Construction Industry, is also a practical review. I also have my own reservation there, but others will talk about it. Like Professor Raima has observed, I don't want to repeat what he has said, but he has found out that Nigeria construction industry faces a lot of challenges in the need for sustainable practice, cost effectiveness, and quality control. At the end of the day, he was able to suggest that collaboration between industry stakeholders, academia, and regulatory body will be necessary to develop and implement best practices. That is that about the second paper. The third paper, an evaluation of bearing strength of lateritic soil cement means for foundation application. Somebody was telling me that how relevant is this to our theme. Well, may not be per se, but at the same time, everything we are talking about rests on the soil. So we can admit that it's relevant. He has been able to tell us that lateritic soil, well, I wouldn't know the location anyway, says if you stabilize it with about 8% cement content, it will serve well as a base for road construction. Taking home from there is that if it is good for road construction, it can also be used for building construction. Yes, I think that is it. Take one from that. At this point now, at this stage, I realize that other audience will be have one comment or question that they want to ask. So can you signify if you have comment or questions, please? I will give you numbers. Number 1. Number 2. Yes. Questions, comment on the paper quickly so that we can leave. Okay, number 1 first. If there are others, in the course of it, please signify.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to
Please,
comment on...
identify yourself.
Okay, my name is Builder Masoud Lado Saleh. I happen to come from Kano State. I work with the Bureau of Public Procurement in Kano. Actually, the first paper on innovative technologies in concreting. These innovative technologies, sincerely, many of those mentioned are not new. They have been in use, but in Nigeria, we have not been, especially we that are in the production, we have not been leveraging on the use of those technologies. But sometimes I don't blame our clients for not using such innovative technologies, because some of those admixtures and additives that you can use to achieve those innovative technologies are not available in the Nigerian markets. Sometimes when you want to use these admixtures, you have to either import them, or, for example, for me that I'm in Kano, I have to go to Lagos. If it's not available in Lagos, I have to import them from abroad. I had an experience when I was in the production of a Kano Cancer Treatment Center, when we have built about 3 sets of LINAC bunkers to prevent radiation leakages. These additives, the additives we use, we have to import them from Italy because they are not available in the Nigerian markets. So I want a subsequent research on these issues to leverage on how we can provide availabilities of those additives to achieving the new trends, the innovative technologies. Then secondly, on the challenges on paper 2, the challenges in concrete productions. Sincerely, the number 1 challenges we are having is in terms of cost and affordability. The supply chain management of cement and other materials of concrete is sometimes, we can say, has been monopolized by the privileged few in Nigeria. And this is because many of us, or many of our entrepreneurs, lack the government support to leverage on the production of these materials. And the supply chain is always the issues. I happen to be from Kano. The largest producers of these products are from Kano. But whenever there are problems in supply chain, we are the people at the receiving end. We used to buy the cement at the highest cost. But I want to call on the researchers to always find ways whereby we can think of providing these products whereby we can compete with those who are providing it right now. Thank you very much. There are other things, but due to time.
Thank you. The second person, but we appreciate if the comments and questions can be made brief. Thank you.
Good morning, sirs.
I'm standing on the existing protocol. My name is Builder Mrs. Olumefun Oluremi from the Ogun State chapter. I work with Ogun State Building Productions Management Authority. My observations and questions goes to the 3D printing. And my observation is this, sir. I can see from the demonstrations and the video, it was only used on a bungalow. And I want to ask, sir, can we use it on a high-rise without the introductions of reinforcement? I believe that with the video, it will surely stand on a bungalow, but without introduction of reinforcement, can the 3D practical be used on a high-rise building? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Dr. Lawuyi, you have to come up. Come around, please. Come and respond to that, please, quickly.
Thank you. That's an interesting question. You see, for storage structures, you require reinforcement. And for those of us that understand reinforced concrete concept, concrete provides majorly the compressive strength, and tensile strength is provided by reinforcement. For adoption of 3D in storage structures, I wish you will have time to look at the third video. We could not, it's about 41 minutes. It actually shows how 3D is adapted for various stages of the construction process. Now, the introduction of reinforcement is done with a provision for bringing it to key in your reinforcement. So when they are printing, they will leave space, the space where you will key in the reinforcement in. And when you get to a height, you fix in the reinforcement, they grout. Then you can connect up. It's still, it's still an evolving technology, but it might not be as easy as what we have been used to. But the development is advancing and looking at how to solve every particular issue. But for me, if you can have, for our conventional concrete, we work with a strength of 25, 30, and 3D could still give you 45. I'm privileged to be a practitioner in high-performance concrete. One of the advantage of high-strength, high-performance concrete is that you can have thin concrete elements that will serve a longer height or a span. So with that, if we could work out how to embed our reinforcement bars, then there will not be a reason why we can't go to high tall structures. But for now, of course, most of the structures are still majorly at the bungalow, as you observe. But the third video, which you did not see, shows how they embed reinforcement in 3D printing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you give it to the first presenter? Response to the question. Response to the comment of that man, if you have any.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's, from what I heard, it was just an observation he made, and it's been noted. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our panelists, we are racing for time. If you still have any question, you can write it down, so that one young graduate asked a question yesterday, and he had to meet one of us privately because of time. If you are not tired, say hey. If you are tired, say aye. If you are not tired, say nay. So who has it? Okay. Okay, I think we have to vote. Vote for the one, the tired and not tired. We really appreciate all of us. Thank you very much. Whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. We are aware that some of us have not taken breakfast. And by the schedule, I've been told that we are working towards 2 p.m. for the food. So we want to kindly plead with us that you bear with us. It's not, I am aware there are some vendors, food vendors around, but we want to kindly seek our indulgence that we continue until a particular time when we feel they are set. Please, is my request granted? If my request is granted, say A. If it is partially granted, say aye. I don't want to ask the next question, whether it's not granted or not. All right. Okay. On a serious note, I want to thank our paper presenters. I want to thank the panelists and our chairman. I think they deserve a round of applause. And they have done a very good job. If you still have any question, you can write it down and pass it to them or meet any of them individually. So thank you very much. Kindly note that we want, I am under authority here, our journal. I want to make some announcements. The Niob journal is out for the 2023 edition, and Mr. President has graciously obliged that it should be sold for 500 naira special rate now. After the AGM, it will go for 1,000 naira. And knowledge can spark a lot of ideas in your mind. So I think, as I'm talking, I just saw Mr. President coming. So Mr. President, we are grateful. I think we should clap for Mr. President. So at the right time, you take a copy or copies, not only for academic people, not only for students or lecturers, for every builder and those who are not even in building profession. You notice that Builder Olawuyi projected 3D concrete printing. There is a lot. So if you were not here when it was presented, I think you should be keenly interested in having a soft copy of that presentation. The world has gone beyond bricks and mortar. Another announcement is the College of Fellows Vice Chairman will be meeting with new fellow inductees immediately when we disperse at the gallery. Now, kindly oblige me. If somebody sponsors you for a program, we have a sponsor who contributed something to this AGM. Should we silence them or give them time? So I think it is just good for future that we allow them. There's a company called Solar Furniture Limited, and they made contribution to the success of this AGM. We are giving them just 10 minutes. But before they come up, I don't know whether I should be democratic or military. But when our colleagues leave the platform, after their presentation, should we go for our sectoral meeting before food? Or do we say we are going for food, even if food is not ready? But our leaders were targeting 2 o'clock for food. So I need response. The other time, it's not easy to be parliamentary president. So I refuse to say nay. So what is our view? After this presentation, do we go straight to sectoral meeting? Then if we are fully set for the food, then we go eat. What is the yes, ma'am? We go to sector. Do you know why? Any other view? If you want us to go, even if your stomach, except for those whose stomach are protesting, but if your stomach is not protesting, what we can do is, can we go for the sectoral meeting after the 10 minutes? Please, because our big oga, all builders are big people. We are many now, and this is the best time to go for the sectoral meeting. I'm not imposing it, but I'm just appealing that if it's possible, let's go for sectoral meeting after this presentation, and thereafter we go for our food. Does it make sense? Thank you very much. Mr. What's the name of that company? Messrs. Solap, where are you? Are you set? I'm going to use time counter. Please, 10 minutes. Can it be projected? So, you are free to go. Thank you very much. Can we clap for them again?
Thank you. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol already established. My name is Mr. Ezonu Emmanuel, and I'm the marketing manager at Solar Furniture Limited. You'll agree with me that the details of the building with its furniture are truly what makes that building unique and special. And so, as builders here seated, I understand the need for the synergy between my company, which is Solar Furniture Limited, and builders here. This presentation will be very brief due to the brevity of time, and I'd just like to proceed. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, this is a brief summary of Solab and what we stand for. Solab is an indigenous ISO certified furniture manufacturing company with a bias in sustainable corporate and educational furniture. After a research in the use of furniture and fittings in our higher institutions of learning, we came to realize with great dismay the high proliferation of furniture and fittings, and basically the failure of most of this furniture as they lack basic ergonomics and even the needed strength, especially the foreign type. And that is what spurred the company, and we have a vision. Please, next slide. Our vision as a company is to be the leading corporate and educational furniture by the end of 2023, and also to diversify and also meet other African needs within the Nigeria economy. Our mission, of course, is to design and produce professional, innovative furniture products based on ergonomics to enhance user comfort. This is our quality policy. As an ISO certified furniture company, we have our commitment to customer satisfaction and, of course, 100% quality in all that we do, as well as our commitment to continuous improvement. Next slide. Some of our foreign affiliation includes the project management institution. We have a lot of our staff that are registered project managers. Next slide, please. Secondly, like I mentioned in the introduction, Solab is an ISO certified furniture producing company. ISO is actually the organization for standardization, and as an ISO certified furniture company here in Nigeria, it is based on the quality management systems of ISO that we ensure that our management system is internalized in both our processes and our admin process to ensure that as a company we meet with the requirement of ISO as an international organization. Our team of leveraging also on the wealth of professional experiences from most of our staff that are project manager certified, we also deliver the best in terms of our execution from initiation to completion, following every requirement of the institution and even our customer specification. Some of our merit award includes one from the Nigeria Institute of Architects. This is because we have team of architects, professionals in Solab as a company. This is our national spread. If you look at this map, you agree with me that our presence has actually been established around the country, from the north central to the northeast, the northwest, the south-south, the southeast, and even the southwest region. This is the national spread of Solab, where we have executed projects within the country. Next slide. Some of our clientele, just to mention but a few, Over the years, our competence and experience has endeared us to most of our clients, and some of which you can see displayed on the screen: Benue State University, University of Jos, Imo State University, the ITF, keep going, keep rolling. Plateau State Polytechnic, Barke Ladi, Olabisi Onabanjo University, University of Abuja, go ahead. Usmanu Danfodio University, Kogi State University. The list goes on and on and on, just keep going. You can see on the screen, including even churches, because the seat you're seated on is also, all right, please hold on. Our products, some of our products include collapsible lecture seats, like you have seen on the screen displayed here, the furnishing of lecture classes in Kogi State University, Aigba, Kogi State, the furnishing of management science, University of Abuja, the furnishing of 500 number sitting auditorium, Umar Musa Yaradua University, Katsina, the furnishing of office and lab Panshin here in Plateau State, furnishing of lecture halls in Federal Polytechnic, Bida, Niger State, furnishing of 5 number lecture halls at the University of Calabar. This project was actually done early this year, and go ahead. Furnishing of our lecture halls, FCE Panshin, go ahead. Furnishing of lecture halls, Polytechnic Bida. All right. Go back a bit, please. Now, moving to our products, we have, like you can see, I mentioned earlier that some of our unique products include the Solab Comfort Auditorium chairs that can be used for auditoriums, church auditoriums, seminar, conference auditoriums, like what you're seated right now on. This is a sample. Go ahead. These are some of the projects we executed for some churches, even within the state and outside the state. Dunamis International Gospel Center, Jalingo, Taraba State. The furnishing of Dunamis International Gospel Center, Yola, the Nidbury office, please, you're a bit fast. Furnishing of the Citadel of Peace, Cathedral in Jos. Next. Go ahead, Adamawa, this is Adamawa. This is the furnishing of a church. Then moving to our products. Our unique products include executive tables, semi-executive tables, boardroom or conference tables, office shelves or bookshelves. Go ahead. Like you can see on the screen, this is one of our executive tables. You can go ahead. Executive tables. Solab. This is the bookshelf, the work station, the reading carrels for library furniture. All these are produced here in Nigeria. This is some of our projects. The furnishing of the Sule Lamido University, Jigawa State, the Senate building actually. You can see that on the screen right now. All these were projects executed by Solab Furniture Limited. Go ahead. This is Federal Teaching Hospital, Lokoja, the furnishing of their... Also, we have a unique product that the furniture product as a corporate institution and also a furniture producing company for educational needs. We also have the laboratory tables. We have a unique range of laboratory tables. This is actually the wall table. We have the island table. We have, next, we have the demonstration table. All these are unique tables that you find in the laboratory, done with the best of materials with resistance for chemical, water, or even fire. These are some of our projects executed, Federal University Lafayette, where we furnish their laboratories. Some of our other products include the seminar chairs, like you can see, for the Polytechnic in Katsina, Hassan Usman Polytechnic in Katsina. Next, we have Gombe State. Then, as builders, of course, you agree with me that in contemporary times, the invention of the modern architrave doors is one that you can find in most public buildings and even private buildings. And so we are not left out. Solab Furniture Limited also produces designs and produce architrave doors that are very durable and can last you quite a long time. We also have student furniture, the hostel furniture. We have the single bunk, a provision for the shelf, the reading table and the chair for the students to make sure that the students are actually comfortable as they read. We have the double bunk furniture. We have also the hospital furniture. The the examination table. All these are produced and manufactured by Solar Furniture Limited. What makes us unique as a company? I'd like you to be slow on this one. Our professional capacity, like I mentioned earlier, to ensure effectiveness in delivery, Solar Furniture Limited is founded and managed by a team of professionals, which includes architects, engineers, quantity surveyor, builders, accountants, and the likes. Our technical, we have also artisans, carpenters, welders, leather design that works to give us the very best. Our machinery, of course, we have the state-of-the-art machineries, some of which you can see displayed on the screen, the industrial edging machine and the likes. Keep going. The industrial compressor, our sewing machine for the upholstery section. And of course, what our clients stand to benefit is free delivery. We deliver to every part of the nation, every part of the country. Of course, with addition of 1 year warranty for all our products. You can be sure of that. Next. Now, you can find us, this is our corporate office, suite 3020 King Fem Plaza, Modubelo Way, Mabushi, Abuja. That's our corporate office with our showroom. Anytime you're in Abuja, you can be sure to visit us. Our factory is here in Plateau State, number 1, Yakubu Gowon Way, just by Secretariat Junction, just before the mega station. These are our contacts. You can actually reach us on any of these contacts, on even our social media platforms. Our website is there. Everything is on display. While I'm even talking, some of our colleagues are distributing some flyers to some of us in case you're interested. And also just to mention, we have our booth stand up on the gallery. We have a display of some of our products. You can do well to also go upstairs to just check and see what you need. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we should clap for him again. But you should clap for NLB for giving you a platform. Oh yeah, another clap for NLB. And you see our building profession is so fantastic. So many things. When you help the building industry, you help the society. See what he's doing and making a lot of money. So our people, we can be having the entrepreneurial mind. Thank you very much. On this note, we want to go to our sectoral meeting. My past president wants to talk to me. All right. Dr. Akishola, are you here? Dr. Akishola, if you are here, kindly come up here. Now, this is how we're going to do the sectoral meeting. If you are builders in academia, I'm not partial, but I think that's the first one I remember. Kindly raise up your hand and go to this side. Builders in academia. Your meeting today is so strategic, so don't let us shave your head in your absence. Because once the game is over, the game is over. We are builders in academia. Please, wherever you are, you're going to move here. The next one is builders in public service. Is Builder Alao around? Builder Alao. If he's not around, send message to him wherever he is. Builders in public service, you go to this side. Builders in private sector. If you know the party you belong to, builders in private sector, stay behind. We have 2 columns. Stay behind builders in academia. Where is the leader of builders in private sector? Builder in private sector. Is the leader around? I saw him yesterday. Builder in public service. Builder Alao, are you around? First of all, gather yourself together and look for your leader. Builder Chris Benlonwu. Builders in BIM. Builders in building information modeling. Consultant builders. I've not heard from Dr. Akishola. Builders in academia here. Builders in public service here. Builders in private sector. Are you in private sector? Please be at the back. Just identify yourself so that then institution of health and safety. Are we around? Institution of health and safety. Then consultant builders. Let each column have 3 groups. Builders in academia, followed by another group, followed by consultant builders. And what we are going to do is that each group should have a leader and a secretary, and you come out with your resolutions that will be very useful for the program. I think let us finish our sectoral meeting before the fellow inductees. Please, let all of us finish our sectoral meeting before going for fellow inductees. We have not finished. After the sectoral meeting, our new inductees or fellow can go and meet their leader. Thank you very much. Can each group identify themselves? Yes.
Assessors, quality assurance.
Builder over, sir. Are you around? Builder Lee over. Where is academia? This is academia, right? Which group is this, sir? Private. Are you in private sector? Sit together, I beg. Come near each other.
Private.
He said it's private sector.
Private, this way.
Okay, private sector. They say move. Builder Shooks is going. What of builders in public sector? Builders in public sector. Megida Sonida Eki. How are you, sir? Please look for your group and stay there, please. Look for your group. Look for your group. Builder, Professor Captain, Professor Rahim, all of us, kindly, let's go stay in builders in academia. All our people in academia, you are needed there now.
Builders in private sector, please come over here. If you are in the private sector, please come here. I'm trying to look for the person who is supposed to be in charge. But before then, I think we can start something. I don't know that if without this microphone, we can hear each other. We can't hear with microphone. So we need to... Yeah. Yes, we have the coordinator here now. That's Builder Oladele is the one coordinating the private sector. Some of us will just support him from behind so that I know there's a platform. And there's a platform for the private sector. WhatsApp platform. Are we aware? There's a platform. It's okay, it's okay. It's okay, it's okay. Listen now, listen. Let's take it easy. Most of us who are here today may not have attended previous AGM. And listen to me, listen now. Some of us who are here now may not have attended previous AGM where issues have been discussed. So what we do now, if we give out the number so that we can all be on that platform. Some people have called me to ask for the number. And I said, when we come for the AGM, we will share the number. The platform is to enable us exchange ideas. When you have challenges in practice, also throw it on the platform and people will respond to it. So let me welcome all of you and hand over to the coordinator.
Thank you, sir.
What you can do first,
yes, sir.
Mention the WhatsApp number and send it to everybody.
Okay.
Now.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we let it be very low so that we can shadow and all that. Let it be very low. We need to first showcase a sample, or if you want to stay like in the middle, so that we be distant.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible enough? Yes.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. And let me congratulate every one of us for the opportunity we have to be at this conference. I pray that God Almighty will see us back to our various destination. Let me start by asking the following question. How many of us are there at Lagos AGM? Signify. Okay. And how many of us are there at Akure AGM? Okay. You know why I'm asking this question? Why I'm asking the question is that there is a platform. There is a platform created at Lagos, and we updated it at Akure AGM. And those of us on that platform, we have been interacting and we have been moving forward. And also at Akure AGM, we went further to select a kind of state coordinator for each of the states of the federation. For instance, in Abuja FCT, there is Builder Shokomi Oshuporo, is the one coordinating FCT. We have Builder Aderemi, I don't know if he's here with us, is the one coordinating Oyo State, for instance. So we are trying to make things easy so that we can collate and make our, oh my God. Can you hear me like this? So what we are trying to do, because we know that hello?
Just take the mic. Take it. Maybe they are.
Please, let me test it. Maybe they are footage.
Maybe they are.
I should stand up. This is what I'm saying. Okay. Somebody is trying to disconnect it. It's not even working right.
So what I'm saying is, in essence, is that we are trying to update our data. So far, those of us that were on that platform, you are here, please just raise up your hand. You know you are